To Namibia now, voting will continue in some areas of the country today in the Presidential and National Assembly poll. The Electoral Commission in that country extended voting after some polling stations experienced challenges on Wednesday. The Commission has expressed concern about the social media misinformation, saying only the verified results will be announced by the Commission. It's not yet clear when the official results will be announced. Well, early results from Namibia's elections indicate a tight race between SWAPO's Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah as well as Panduleni Itula of the Independent Patriots of Change, or IPC, with voters divided between the two candidates. However, the elections process has not been without controversy, as several opposition parties have called for the Electoral Commission of Namibia to halt the vote counting, citing allegations of unprofessional conduct. Well, to talk to us in greater detail on this, let's now welcome Rui Tyitende, academic as well as political analyst. Rui, thank you so much for your time today. Good afternoon. So let's first get your reaction of how these elections have been conducted. I mean, a lot of criticism on the electoral body on its lack of preparedness, starting from campaigning to ultimately the vote, which notably was the country's 7th general poll since Namibia's independence from apartheid South Africa back in 1990.
No, absolutely. Thank you for having me. Well, looking at what has transpired since Wednesday, most my colleagues that I've spoken to, the voters that I've spoken to, we all somehow agree that this is one of the most unorganized elections that have ever occurred post-apartheid Namibia. The polling stations across the 121 constituencies has been marked by a lack of ballot papers, people standing in the queues from 7 a.m. up to 2 a.m. in the evening. And one would have thought that since the Electoral Commission of Namibia had ample time to prepare for these elections, everything ought to have gone smoothly. Not perfect, but at least smoothly. That did not transpire. The AU observer mission, also announced themselves on this particular issue, and they said that, look, there was shortcomings, ballot papers, lack of communication from the ECN. For 30 hours, the ECN leadership were nowhere to be found in terms of clarity being sought by opposition parties and the media. So these elections, by its very nature, despite the fact that you had a huge segment of the society, especially the youth, that were galvanized to go and vote and participate in our democratic process, they were the most disappointed, and it actually happened in most urban centers. And the ECN, to a large extent, one would think that since they had a year to prepare, everything would at least have gone according to plan. As has been alluded to earlier, none of that has happened, and they appear to have been ill-prepared for this pivotal election in our 34 years of democracy.
Interesting enough, Roy, because, I mean, there was just 1.5 million registered voters that they should have been able to cater for in a timeous manner. And I'm glad that you mentioned some of the findings from the AU Observer Mission there. They did allude to the fact that, of course, they highlighted a few points, like the fact that this year's poll was shaped by past unfulfilled political promises, youth unemployment, land ownership, among many that made these elections very contested, like hotly contested. But looking now at the latest indications that show that SWAPO, which is the incumbent ruling party, is actually taking an early lead at about 40%, 48%. We know that voting was delayed in some areas, as you've also alluded to. So vote results will take typically longer to tally. But could these figures indicate the overall results as we are seeing and hearing at this stage, Roy?
Yes, absolutely. Look, the opposition is fragmented. They are divided. They are not speaking with one voice. Just to give you a better context of what is happening in the current election. In 2019, you had the opposition also trying to unplug SWAPO from power. But if you were to tally the entire presidential result of 2019, they could not even defeat SWAPO election. the statistics are a bit different as a result of the preliminary results that are coming in from the various polling stations. But one thing is clear. There are 15 presidential candidates for 1.4 million registered voters for a population of 3.1 million. And you have 22 political parties competing for the National Assembly seats. We have 104 seats in the National Assembly, 96 being elected and 10 being appointed by the president. Now, the opposition, 7 of these political parties contesting in the presidential as well as the National Assembly election are offshoots of SWAPO. They come out of the ranks and file of the governing party SWAPO. So in terms of their ideological leanings, their ideological orientations, they have nothing radical to offer that is different, that actually deviates from what SWAPO has done for the past 34 years. So the opposition, in terms of their policy outlook, they have nothing different to offer, except for the fact that bashing SWAPO for what they've not been able to achieve for the past 34 years. But you need to look at it this way in terms of understanding Namibian politics. Namibia, to a large extent, like any post-colonial African state, is largely determined by the politics of identity. We are a heterogeneous society, and to a large extent, ethnic voting still plays a key role in these elections, especially looking at the preliminary results that are coming out from across the polling stations, from across the various regions, from across the various constituencies. And I think the governing party, as I've predicted earlier in the year as well as last year, they will still win, even though not by an overwhelming majority, because the opposition vote remains fragmented.
Absolutely interesting views there, Roy, because that is some of the general assessment, even from other pundits who are saying the opposition in this country is basically, as you've said, fragmented and has not offered the people of Namibia an alternative, a viable alternative, leading to SWAPO showing signs of taking this early lead. Thank you so much, Roy, for your input this afternoon. Hopefully we'll be talking soon when the official results start tallying in now. That is Rui Tyitende, the political analyst on the Namibian elections.